Good morning. Happy Monday. We are one day away from Christmas Eve, and I just want to welcome you to Casting the Net. Mondays with Coach Rice, where we dive deep into the topics where it matter most to your mental health and well-being. I am your host, Coach Rice, your professional certified life and health coach and trained mental health counselor. And I just want to first of all just say happy Monday to you guys. And I think this topic we get ready to dive into is going to be interesting and going to be helpful to you. I want to welcome my special guest, Claribel Coreano. Cariano, right?
Yes, Coreano.
She is a transformation life coach, writer, and artist. She holds a master's degree in human services with a concentration in marriage and family therapy, like myself. But hers is from Capella University. She has several life coaching certifications, as well as being a certified trauma informed coach and a member of the International Christian Coaching Institute. I'm also a member of that institute as well. So, Claribel, tell us where you from and why did you choose a career path or a path in helping others in the area of trauma.
Yes, I originally immigrated from Dominican Republic, and I was raised in Manhattan, New York, and then we moved to Connecticut. And my yearning and desire to help others gear me towards getting a career in going to school to learn how to help other, as you know, in ever since I was a child. And I'm going to start by giving you an example. When I was a child, I used to keep a jar of penny that I always wanted to give to the poor. So that's, I think that that's when it started for me. But I guess I wanted to help others, but I also didn't know that I myself was suffering from trauma. And I didn't know how to pinpoint it, what I was dealing with. And going to school not only helped me learn about myself, but helped me learn what others were going through at that time. So it was really eye-opening for me, because when I was dealing in the social services field, working with the population that I was working, I saw a lot of major traumatic experiences and a lot of history of trauma, and I was able to help them and have that empathy and sympathy, but always keeping my boundaries, that, we always have to keep our boundaries with them. So that also allowed me to learn more about trauma, because I saw it in many different perspectives, many different stories, and I saw that it's a very complex, it's a very complex topic. It's not as simple as, we think trauma normally was categorized as individuals that were veterans that were going through the war trauma, but they have found out, they have done studies like Van der Kolk, he has done studies that from the war veterans, that shows that there was some trauma before they went to war, and they were manifesting in their emotion and their physical body. So there's been a lot of extensive training, and taking the training as well has also helped me, um, learn about trauma, what it entails, that it has to do more with your emotions. A lot of people think it's bad memories, repeated memories, but it has to do more with your either repress, or some people overexpress the emotions. I think, yes,
That
but
is
I
so
um, I
true.
want to help others thrive and learn how to heal. I passed all that. Now I want to teach others how to heal and how to thrive and become more productive.
Yeah, we often want to help others when we have overcame it ourselves, right? um
Mm-hmm.
when you let's just, for the sake of the audience, let's how do you define trauma?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, before I knew what it was manifesting in like physical. it was manifest for me. I'm gonna explain my experience. It was manifesting in physical. I was having a lot of, medical issues. It started, gearing like that. And I was saying, but why, am I so young and I'm having medical issues? Well, it had to do with that repressed trauma because I didn't know what it was. So becoming open to acknowledge it. This is what it is. This is what I'm going through and how I can deal with this and start working on taking those steps to heal. That's how I experience it and how I dealt with it,
Mm-hmm.
learning about it, what it is, and what it entails. For many people, it's different. It manifests as different. And for me, it manifested in that manner that I was very accident prone. I was very accident prone. Um, so it wasn't until I dealt with that trauma that I started healing and knowing what it is. I said, oh, so this is what it is. And you start learning more because many people think and assume that trauma, you can just get healed from one day to the next. It's a journey. You have to constantly be working on it, and you have to constantly be learning about it because some things may come up later on, or you may have triggers. Um, it doesn't mean that you're not healed. You're still healing, but some things may come up because many people
Yes.
assume that you're going to just automatically, I don't know, I will ask you, but they assume that automatically you're going to be just healed, from one day to the next. Oh, you're not healed, but you're working on your healing. And it's important to continue working on that healing and getting more stronger because, again, it has to do with your emotional, learning how to regulate your feelings, how to speak up, how to express your emotions in the proper way, and many other different things. So I hope that makes sense. And I
Yes, it
hope
make a
that
lot of
answers the
sense because trauma is
question.
based. When I think of trauma, I think about is how it's an emotional and physical response to a stressful event that happened in your life, and everybody's level of trauma is different. And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, I also agree with you when it comes to if we repress it and we don't know how to regulate our emotions, we can get stuck. And triggers pop up to remind us that we need healing in that
Yeah.
area. But it is a journey, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, when you think about um, when we think about unresolved trauma, and let's relate it to limiting beliefs, how does that hold a person back?
Wow. That's a very good question. It can actually keep the person stagnant. It can actually keep the person feeling shame, feeling like this is as best as it can get, or that you cannot reach that healing part. Um, we have to first acknowledge it. This is what happened. How can I deal with this? How can I learn ways that I can heal or ways that I can deal with my emotions and learn new things? And you have to be open. You have to be wanting to heal. You have to also need it. You have to feel that you need it and that you want it. Because many people will say, um, yes, I want to be healed, but they're stuck and they don't want to take that step towards healing because it's so painful. So you have to be totally vulnerable to go to that place of pain and deal with all that. And it's difficult and it's painful, but you have to be brave and say, no, I need this. I want it, and move forward and start taking steps towards healing. That's
Yes.
what has worked for me. Like I really had to confront that. It's like they say you have to confront um, your past. You have to confront those feelings, those emotions. You have to really dig deep within your inner core and go to the root and not leave anything unresolved.
Yeah,
It's like
acknowledging it is
pull it
so
out.
big.
Pull all
Acknowledging
the
it
roots
is
out.
so, you're right, acknowledging is so important because when we say it doesn't, if we tell ourselves it doesn't bother me, I'm just gonna let it go, let it go, let it go, but you're tucking
Mhm.
it under the rug and eventually you will trip over it. But it's something that needs your attention.
Yes.
because it's something that, you know, that you need to address and figure and understand that when triggers come, if you know them, if you know the
Mm-hmm.
triggers, it loses its power. But when you don't acknowledge it, it has
Mm-hmm.
power over you. Would you say that that would be true?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I like that example that you just gave, that if we ignore it, you know, we basically it's just gonna, how you say, kind of like keep repeating it, and we're gonna fall. It's like almost a cycle, like individuals that go through recovery, they go through a cycle, right? They fall through the hole, they get up, they fall again, they get up, and as they go on, they get more stronger. So they, once they identify those triggers, what makes them fall into that hole, then they're going to be strong enough to jump over that hole and continue moving forward. The same thing with trauma. You have to, like you said, acknowledge that those are triggers, and ask where they're coming from, why are they there, how can I overcome those triggers and move forward in my life and not
Right.
become stagnant. Because if we
Yeah,
let
I've
them,
learned. That's
mhm,
what I've learned about trauma in my own personal life, where I just have to acknowledge it. And I noticed how it did lose its power over me. Not that it don't, the triggers don't pop up again, but I know what to do when they pop up. I'm not lost and like, what is this? What is this? And I'm not lost and
mhm,
not knowing what it is because I didn't address it. But let me ask you a question. What
mhm.
are some of the limiting beliefs that you have found to be connected to trauma?
Oh, wow. There could be many, depending,
Yeah,
let me
just
see.
some of the major ones that you have experienced in your practice.
hmm Self-fulfilling prophecies. Individuals that are told that, you may not amount to anything, or that you cannot be better than what you are, or they've been told many negative things. So that negative thinking, that stinky thinking, that's number one, because trauma makes you feel like it's your fault, but it's not. You have to realize that it's not your fault, and that it's a situation or experience that you had, which was out of your control. But you have to learn how to move past that, and learn how to move from that, feeling, that emotion it brings, and learn new ways of thinking, and learn new ways of behavior, and learn new ways. It's like almost reprogramming your mind,
Yes.
I would say, right? Reprogramming your mind to think more positive, and learning also how to deal with people. Because if you come from a dynamic, let's say, for instance, toxic environments or toxic people, or you've been through domestic violence, you have to learn how to identify those triggers that some individuals bring in. Like, they want to bring you back to that unhealed place. Like you said, you have to learn those triggers and not let them. So you have to again, that thinking, that you have to reprogram your mind to say, okay, I feel, instead of reacting to to have their approach or their perspective, making it, empowering yourself to say, I feel disrespected when you say this, or when you refer to me as this, or whatever you have to say, but using I statement, that empowers you, and it tells you that you are now in control. You're not no longer going to accept disrespect. You're not going to allow anyone to bring you back to that unhealed place. I don't know if that makes sense
It
to
make
you,
a
but
lot of sense because like I love how you mentioned when the self-fulfilling prophecy where people say you'll never amount to anything or you're not smart enough. and
Mhm.
and you really walk around believing that. And so you have it's almost like it created an identity, a false
Yes.
identity for yourself, as well
Mhm.
as so you're walking around with this identity that doesn't belong to you. Somebody gave it to you and put it on you, and so you have
Mhm.
to it you have to step back and renew your mind and go back to the basics of who you really are, because you could take on a false identity, and that's not
Yes.
who you are. It's what happened to you. And I think you have to differentiate, this is not who I am, but this is what happened to me, and acknowledge that this happened to you. And when you communicate with people, allowing you are triggered, and be
Mm-hmm.
honest with the person, like you said, when you did this, it made me feel, because can't nobody make you feel a certain way. You already feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you
Yes. Yes.
acknowledging the fact that this happened, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I like when you said that, because a lot of people do walk around with that self-fulfilling prophecy, I'm not good enough. And then when they have to approach life with, in a way that things come up, where they have to grow, where things can be challenging, they shut down.
Yes. You're absolutely right on that. It creates shame. It creates a fear, fear of failure, fear of improvement, growth, like you said. And it also keeps the person stagnant. It keeps the person stagnant in that trauma, because they're thinking it's my fault. But it's one of the things that I like to always tell, I might say it like 100 times, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that this happened. You have to acknowledge that it did, and then to move forward from that trauma. And like you said, it can keep you, those feeling, that negative thinking can keep you trapped and keep you stagnant in that unhealed place. You have to break down that wall and move
Yes.
past that.
And you right about the shame is huge. Shame is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I kid you not. There, when I find places where I feel shame, I
Mm-hmm.
notice it. How you notice shame is when you hiding. Anything
Yes.
hidden cannot be healed. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you're hiding, that's your indication that shame exists.
Mm-hmm.
And in my personal life, to be, if I'm being transparent, um, all my life I struggled with weight loss and weight. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be a certain size, and so if I can lose weight easy, but I also can put it back on easy. And when I put it back on, I want to hide who,
Mm-hmm.
and it can cause me to not be who I am in that area of my life. And when I find that it's time to take off take off the facade, and go ahead and just not be ashamed. But shame will cause you to hide,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't want to be around people because, oh, I feel this way or I feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so acknowledging where you areas in your life where you are hiding yourself and not being who you are, that's the area where people need to know what you're going through, so they can know who, that they're not alone.
Yes, exactly. Being vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and being not afraid to share your story. Be not afraid to share your story,
Mm-hmm.
because we may act or allow others to make us feel that, you are your trauma. That's not your identity. That is not who you are. And like you said, you will either take that mask of shame, you may take that mask of people pleasing, you may take that mask of perfection, and that's not who you are. It's just something that how you say, self-defense mechanism that you build
Yes.
up to hide that trauma. But it's better to come clean with yourself, open up, share the trauma, share what you went through, and of course, being around supportive people, because like I said, there's individuals that like to bring you to that unhealed place. When they hear your testimony or they hear your story, um, they may say, "Oh, you got to still work on unhealed things or unhealed." I think that that's not what a person that has suffered from trauma needs to hear. They need to hear, you know what? I am so proud of you that you have accomplished this, that you have moved past this trauma, that you have overcame all this. Wow, this is, remarkable. and commend the person instead of trying to bring them back to that unhealed and letting them know, okay, you still got to heal, or you still got to, that's not, encourage them. Oh, yes, we still got to heal. Everyone, I believe, that goes to trauma, it's a continuous journey that they have to go through. It's not something, like I said, that happens overnight. And we
Right.
have to realize and be empathetic, sympathetic to individuals that have gone through trauma. We cannot say, if a person has not experienced a trauma, they cannot say, I know exactly how you feel, because they might not have gone through what that person had gone through. And I'm not saying to over sympathize, but to be a supportive individual and empathetic, and letting them know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean?
Oh
That
yes.
they can do it. You can do this. You got what it takes. You're doing it already, and in keep encouraging the person. And I hope that makes sense.
You That make a lot of sense. You answered the question I was gonna ask me. You answered my next question actually that I was gonna ask. But let me ask you. I mean, let me take a step back and ask this question. As far as like the audience, what steps like can they take, in your opinion, to address the limited beliefs that come their way? What steps would you say that they can further take? You answered some of them, but as far as like when it comes to, as well as when it comes to their trauma, breaking free from those, how steps that they can take to break free from those limiting beliefs, because they there
Mhm.
and they strong and they telling them things that are
Mhm.
very very strong.
Mhm. Mhm. The first one that I will say will be to understand that what happened to you was not your fault. It was not your fault, and learn to acknowledge, embrace, and get to the core of that problem first. Because in order to change that, reprogram your mind, you have to go to that place and do that. The second will be to reprogram your mind, that negative thinking, start tackling that negative thinking, and learning by, you can do it different ways. You can um, do affirmations, write your own affirmations. If you are a Christian like me, I use the Bible, I use Bible verses, and I make them into affirmations. Like I say, I have the mind of Christ. I am victorious. I am an individual that is focused on doing the right things, and things like that. So it's cold in this house.
That's okay.
I'm in my son's house. I'm in Connecticut. It is freezing here.
No, you fine.
And
It happens, right? Girl, I cough on here sometimes, and I'm like uncontrollably, and it's so embarrassing, but it is what it is.
yes. I have a blankie, see, because it's cold. But yes, that negative thinking, reprogramming your mind to change those thoughts. Like, become more self-aware. When they start hitting you in your mind, that they start popping up, I say, okay, I know what it is. It's negative thinking. I am going to turn this around, and, for my good, and say this, and do a positive affirmation. That's one way that I will recommend. The third one would be learning how to regulate your emotions, learn how to express them, because everything is like interconnected, your mind, your body, your spirit. So you have to start working on the core, working on changing your thoughts, and also putting it into practice. And self-care, very important. Self-care is super important for a person that has gone through trauma, again, because you have to learn how to regulate your emotions. You have to learn how to regulate, express your feelings appropriately. And like I mentioned before, using those I statements, becoming empowered to say, this is how I'm feeling, this is how you're making me feel. And getting the help that you need, that should be top
Yes.
priority. Getting the help that you need, therapy, of course, life coaching, whatever it is that you need, and making sure that you go to a trauma informed therapist, because that's also very important that they know how to um, treat the person. Again, because
Yes.
trauma is so complex that many of the therapeutic models, they do help, but they need more of somatic, I think, somatic therapy, and learning individuals to regulate their
Yeah,
emotions, because that
there are
it,
different ways that there are different
mhm,
models that they use for trauma. And you're right, they, you know, making sure that that's what I do with my clients. I'm not That's not my specialty, so I
mhm,
definitely walk them through the process of transferring them to a specialist that I know can give them the care that they need for long
mhm,
term. Dealing with long term, um, the journey of trauma. I can help you just enough to get you to the next level.
mhm,
Um, that's not my specialty, but there are people who utilize and they trained in dealing with trauma, and that's important to me for my clients to get the help they need. But I definitely agree with those techniques that you use. I love it, is because you can literally change your narrative, and you sometimes you have to. I'm like you. I use the Bible as
mhm.
my compass because
Yes.
that's what truth lies, right? I never forget. I used the trauma that I went through in my past. The message that it gave me was, you know, you're not smart enough. And so I had to go through, and I love when I was in my master's program how my supervisor helped me, because I was in literally counseling a young lady who was actually going through the same thing I was going through. She was upset because she had received an A minus, and it was like overwhelming, and I felt myself like reacting in a way that I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this because I feel the same thing. So when we went, you know, when we had our
Mhm,
supervision, I said, I don't know what to do with this because I feel the same way she feels, so I don't know how to quite coach her. I mean, you know, counsel her
mhm,
in that area. And he counseled me at that moment,
mhm.
and and I was set free by the word of God, because I had to first dissect the truth about
Yes.
the situation. The way I was thinking was not true. So I had
Mhm,
to dissect. He had me dissect. He asked me multiple questions about, you know, the household I lived in, what type of structure, all of that information mattered. And when come to
yes.
find out was that with the circumstances I was living in, I was actually very intelligent to be able
Mhm,
to have the level of grace that I had living in an environment, you know, chaotic environment. And
mhm.
so it was like the truth is what set me free. And that's what
Yes.
happens, is that the self-fulfilling prophecy a lot of times is a lie. And you have to take that take it and you know, vet it out and say, wait a minute, this is not true. Is this really true? And if it's true, what can I do about it? If it's false, what am I looking at wrong? And that's my compass, the word of God. And that helped, that set me free from thinking you're not smart enough. That really set me free because I had to look at it in the context of where it originated from,
Mhm,
to where it to where we
mhm,
had to take apart the
mhm,
pieces so we could see. But you know, like I said, that you have to do that and change. It changed my narrative, and changing my narrative, not because it was I'm changing it to be to make myself feel good. It was actually factual. My
mhm.
narrative became true.
Yes, you're absolutely right on that. That's a good example too. Because we tend, like I must say, I can identify with that because we tend to take like that mask of perfectionist, And we think by getting all these good grades, because I did the same thing. I have been an honor student since I was little, because I thought, that's how I was dealing with my trauma. I wanted to do better and better and better. But it's like you said, not until you see that head on and see that for yourself. What happens is you see that mirror, and that person was reflecting what like what we're seeing about ourselves. And we got to say, okay, let's stop right here, and this is telling me something. This is true. One of the things that I want to mention is that trauma also causes a spiritual void it's a spiritual wound as well.
Yes.
And in combination with therapy, in combination with everything that we're doing, changing the mindset, that spiritual aspect also has to be um, worked on. We have to work on that spiritual aspect and that void that trauma creates.
Yes.
And right. And one way that we can do this is by reading the Bible, praying, and also deliverance. We might need deliverance because the negative thinking sometimes can become so overwhelming that it really does, that soul wound. You have to work on that soul wound. So I wanted to share that there's a
That is
spiritual
so
aspect also
true.
about trauma.
That is so true. That is so true. You're right. That's a whole nother
Yes.
that's a whole nother show, right? And so
Yes.
so as a transformational life coach, what are you working on now? What are some of the things you're working on?
I'm working on several things. I just finished my book. I'm going to show you right here. So,
Oh,
so you want to be a life coach, and this is a coaching guide and workbook. And I wrote this, about my journey when I started working on life coaching. It was just published in July 2024, and they can purchase it in Amazon. This is one thing. And I also have a trauma support group that I run in Facebook, Healing Together to Overcome Barriers and Obstacles that Trauma Causes.
okay.
And I know it's a big title, but it has
Nice.
been so it's a safe place for individuals to come in and just share their story, and also get some tips and learn new ways to how to thrive and heal and continue healing. So it's a safe place, a safe environment.
And so how so is it free to join that group?
Yes, it's free to join.
Okay.
It's a private group, but they just gotta, like any other group, because I want to keep it for now. I want to keep it safe. In order to keep it
Oh yeah,
safe,
absolutely. That's
I
the
cannot
place you
just have anybody
that's where
sign
you want
in.
to keep it safe.
Yes.
You definitely have. So what is the process of them being a part of that group if they are dealing with trauma and want to join that group?
What is the process? Well, there are some questions they have to answer, and they wanna they need to want to heal and need it as well. They want
Okay.
to, it's like a commitment. We're asking just for a commitment that they are going to come into the group with good intentions to heal and learn and share and be supportive of others, if that makes
I
sense.
like that. I like that. That is so needed now because and people sometimes don't know where to go to get help. And so I will definitely I want you to send me all of your links so I can put it in
Yes, I will.
a YouTube video, and also on Facebook because I think this is important that people know that there is a place to go because there is the point to get an appointment with a therapist can be very can be a long way off and you don't have to wait. You can join groups that are free, that are safe, that where you facilitator, and so you're gonna keep
Yes.
make sure the group is safe. So I love what you're doing. I'm glad you got a book on life coaching. That's awesome. And so definitely send me the link to that so I can put it in there as well so people can know how to reach you. And
Mhm.
love what you're doing. Trauma is not an easy thing to coach, but it is needed.
Mhm.
When I can coach certain levels of trauma, but not like if it's PTS, PTSD. I think that requires a specialization, and
Yes.
that's not an area I'm comfortable in. So I definitely will definitely refer it out. But I think that it's needed. And I just love the fact that you're doing what you're doing. If you could leave the listeners with one powerful thought or piece of advice for overcoming trauma as it relate to limiting beliefs, what would that advice be?
Mm. Well, I want to share a short post that I wrote. It's titled "We Must Feel in Order to Heal."
Mm.
You have permission to feel and express all of your emotions. We are often taught to repress our emotions and feelings, thus making it hard to express them. It doesn't matter what people think of you. Therefore, it becomes more uncomfortable when we are vulnerable and open up emotionally. It's like an emotional part of yourself that was hidden suddenly comes up to say, "Help, help, I need to change." So celebrate that you are brave and a courageous soul to feel in order to heal. There's no shame in crying, becoming vulnerable, tears heals our wounds. Healing comes with exploration and it usually brings uncomfortable feelings. So, whenever you want to give up, it is because there's a breakthrough about to happen. You must confront that and that extremely sensitive part of yourself and learn what it incites, that uncomfortable feeling, and that feeling that you feel like wanting to give in. Think about all the work that you have accomplished thus far. Believe me when I say this, God sees you and celebrates your progress. It may not be as fast as you are accustomed to seeing things happen, but I mean, maybe at a slower pace, but you are accomplishing inner self growth. You may not see with clarity right now because you may still need some work on some things that you may have left that you may thought that were not important or necessary, but they are. These little hidden things are those barriers and obstacles that prevent you from growing inside. So I'm super proud of you. So keep on feeling in order to heal. And this is a post that I wrote a while back and I share with my social media. And one of the things that I want to again tell the audience is it's not your fault, and take the first step towards you healing. You can become empowered to thrive and heal and become more productive in your life, if
Amen.
that makes sense. One thing that before I finish that I wanted to share is I also do healthy um, lifestyle changes. I do a group in TikTok on Thursday at 1:30, and I teach individuals that self-care part, healthy life changes that incorporates, the
Okay.
mind, body, and spirit, self-care, healthy eating, everything that they need to know to keep themselves healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. So that's another group that I do on Thursdays.
Okay. Yeah, definitely message me the links that you want me to put in the video. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom about, trauma and having this conversation because I think it's needed. We all have some level of trauma in our life that we have to overcome and heal. I like how you
Mhm.
said feel in order to heal. And so I just want to just thank you guys for listening. If you feel this episode was a blessing to you, or you know someone who needs help in the area of trauma, please do share this video and not only share but subscribe to the channel so you can get alerts on every time I'm on every Monday when I come on the show, so you can see what kind of wisdom and knowledge we throwing out here to you, because the more information you are, the more informed you are, the better you can live your life. And so I just want to thank you so much, Claribel, for coming on and sharing that today. And I'll, I'm sure you have blessed our audience. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining today, and we are getting ready to sign off.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Should I leave them?